Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 2000 animated film, The Emperor's New Groove. Now, before I get around to sharing more of my thoughts on this film, I'm going to give a special shout out to John for requesting this review. And if there's another film, TV show, or topic that you would like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to my PayPal. The link will be in the video description down below. And I'll try to get to it as soon as I possibly can. Now, the Emperor's New Groove is one of those Disney animated films that I caught a few clips of on television throughout the years, but I never really got around to watching it all the way through. And after seeing it, I thought it was fine. I liked it alright. I know for a lot of people, this is their favorite Disney animated movie, and I wouldn't go that far. There are definitely other Disney films from the Renaissance period, for instance, that I like a lot more than this, like Aladdin or The Lion King. I mean, I even like something like The Little Mermaid more, or Rescuers Down Under, or Oliver and Company. And even from around the 2000s, I would say I'm a bigger fan of Atlantis: The Lost Empire or Treasure Planet. Um, this it was fine. I just didn't think it was as fantastic and as amazing as critics and other people feel this film is. Like, there's some fun moments of wit. There's some nice animation. Um, I do like some of the characters, and I do think the direction is pretty dynamic and strong. But I just the a bigger reason, well, not really a bigger reason, but a big reason why I'm so kind of meh on the movie is that we lost what I feel would have been a really special, unique, great Disney epic because of Disney getting cold feet and not wanting to go forward with the original vision for this film, which was completely different. It was a more serious, but with, a few moments of levity, like The Lion King and some of these other Disney epics. It was going to be a more serious in tone Disney epic that was going to take place around this time period, in South America. And it was called Kingdom of the Sun. And I think the director of this was involved with it as well. And ultimately, Disney had a lot of issues with the script and with the story. Even though they went as far to hire Sting, who was a popular musician at the time, to do music and original songs for Kingdom of the Sun. So they had enough faith to bring Sting on board, which is not a cheap thing at all at that point in his career. And for whatever reason, they just couldn't really find a script or a vision that they were able to agree on. And there were a lot of production issues and a lot of behind the scenes problems that are all detailed in this really fascinating documentary called The Sweatbox that Disney doesn't really want you to watch because it was something that I think ultimately leaked to the internet, and Disney never officially released it in any form. I don't think it was ever intended to be something that the general public was supposed to see, um, because it doesn't necessarily paint Disney in the most favorable light. Um, but it's a really interesting watch, and I highly recommend seeking it out, even if you're a fan of The Emperor's New Groove, just to see what might have been and the original genesis of this whole concept and how things changed. Um, so yeah, it's one of those things where I wish we got that film. So that's another one of those things where it's like, yeah, this is fine, but that would have been better to me. And the thing is, Disney got cold feet because of Prince of Egypt. They can say whatever they want, creative differences, so on and so forth. But the fact is, one of their competitors in the industry DreamWorks put all of his money into Prince of Egypt and all of his marketing, and it didn't do as well as the studio expected it to. So Disney didn't want their Prince of Egypt. So they completely scrapped Kingdom of the Sun, kept a few elements from that script, started from scratch, and ultimately came up with this, what became the Emperor's New Groove, because it's a safer route. They took the safer route, a more straightforward, family-friendly animated comedy, something that had done good business for them in the past. And I think another reason for that is the Disney Renaissance era was effectively over, and they were kind of not making as much financially as I think they would have liked on some of these other projects. So they wanted to make sure that they banked some significant money on their next animated film, and I think that's ultimately what happened here. They really did. They got cold feet and didn't want to take a risk, and it's a shame. I think Disney should have taken that risk, because I think with the right marketing, with the right approach, Kingdom of the Sun would have been a hit, and it wouldn't have mattered how Prince of Egypt did, because Kingdom of the Sun would have been a different kind of film anyway. Prince of Egypt, it's a biblical epic, so not everybody is going to be into that. So there was probably a good chunk of people who were like, I don't want to see the Ten Commandments or some kind of biblical epic in the theater. It's just not for me. They might have thought that it was something that was going to be too religious or whatever, and for some people that is a turnoff as audience members. So I don't think that Kingdom of the Sun would have had that same effect. But it is what it is, and we got this. We got The Emperor's New Groove, and at least it's serviceable. At least it's watchable and it's entertaining. It could have been an absolute disaster. And it really had a good chance of being, considering they scrapped they started from scratch with this in a short amount of time. Like, this isn't something where they had years to develop this particular version of the film. No, they spent years working on Kingdom of the Sun, and they just changed direction pretty much last minute. Now, speaking of direction, you have the film's director, Mark Dindal, and want to talk about him because I think he did a great job. I think one of the most consistent things about this film, quality-wise, is the direction. His prior experience with an animated feature film and his feature film debut in Cats Don't Dance prior to this, I think that really did give him a lot of experience to be able to handle this film like a seasoned vet. You don't see a lot of the same pitfalls on the screen as you tend to do with other directors in animation who this is their first project. You don't see that here. The tone is very consistent. The style is very consistent. He does a great job having some genuinely dynamic and strong and eye-popping visuals, and the same slapstick energy that was present in Cats Don't Dance. It's very present here, and I think that kind of energy really does click and work well with this plot and with these characters and with the mood and the atmosphere and everything that he decided to go for when it comes to the creative process of this film, when it comes to the style of the animation or the way that the scenes move from one sequence to the next, the way that the action is filmed, and all of these different things. Animation direction is a different animal than feature film direction, and there are certain things with animation that are a little bit more of value and are really more of something that is more of a focus uh, versus feature film direction. And one of them is definitely the fluidity. It's how the animation flows and how, scenes connect with one another in a way that is very fluid. And I think there are ways that applies to feature film direction, but not necessarily to the same extremes. Like with animation, you need to have things not be choppy because with the feature film, you can kind of hide it a little bit. In animation, there's no hiding that. There's no hiding a change in style from one scene to the next. There's no hiding, the choppiness of how one bit of animation shows up on the screen versus another. So this looked very polished, very put together, and it really did maintain that fun, energetic bit of just slapsticky chaos that really made Cats Don't Dance into something that was underrated. And I still think that film is really underrated. I honestly, I like Cats Don't Dance more than this film. Can we get a Blu-ray of that? Finally? Please? Please, Warner Archive? Can we get a Blu-ray of Cats Don't Dance? But yeah, good direction by Mark Dindal. The screenplay by David Reynolds for a script that is, in all intents and purposes, a last-minute rewrite of something that was vastly different in the creative process initially. It's a decent enough script. The thing is, the lead Cusco is just not a likable character. I don't think the script did a good enough job making you actually learn to like this character. And I get it, he's supposed to be obnoxious and selfish and a jerk off in the first half of the film before he learns his lesson and becomes a better person. But it's set up in a way where he's just so unlikable that you just don't really care. You don't care about his journey. You don't care about him learning his lesson. And that's a problem. There are other films that have handled this a lot better. And I really feel that maybe if they had more time to polish the script, then things might have been a little bit more effective in that route. But maybe it's one of those things where they didn't have as much time as they might have had with other animated films in the past. So they just kind of had to go with what they had and didn't have time to change things. And it it's just a very ineffective way to write this character. I never liked this character, and I didn't even necessarily find him to be that funny either. So he was unlikable. The attempts at him trying to be funny fell flat, and really what was carrying the film when it comes to the real heart of this story is not even the main character, it's Pacha. So I'll give the screenwriter credit for strengthening Pacha and making Pacha a character that you want to root for and care about. But I think the screenwriter could have done a better job making you feel the same way about Kuzco. And I know they tried to do that near the end of the movie, but it just didn't come across as really that strong. Came across as a little forced, or if it was, or maybe forced isn't the right word. Kind of half-assed. Like forced, would mean that there was a little bit more of an effort, but it was just all for naught. It just came across as straight up half-assed. I'm going to be honest. Like it came across as very half-assed. Which, the fact that he plays a emperor who's turned into a llama, that's kind of ironic. But yeah, I think the screenwriter could have done a better job with Kuzco. But Pacha, great job writing that character. He has a family, he has a home, there's a lot of things for him to fight for. He's willing to sacrifice a lot of things just to help this total stranger who is impatient and has no compassion and is a complete and utter jackass. Um, Eartha Kitt, her character, Yzma, uh, the writing was also really strong for her. I would say the writing is more consistently strong when it comes to the two villains than it is for the heroes. Because it's really good for Pacha, not the best for Kuzco. Then you have the stuff with Yzma and Kronk, and the back and forth between those two, the dynamic between the two of them. It's much more balanced, and the two of them have their own distinct strengths, and they are all really showcased fairly consistently well. And Kronk pretty much gets a lot of the funnier scenes in the film. Yzma also gets a few moments as well, but really the funniest scenes are between those two for me. And I think a big reason for that is due to the writing. Um, you also have Chica, who plays Pacha's supportive wife, and there's some nice stuff with her as well. There's this whole thing with this squirrel that's Kronk's companion who doesn't like Yzma, and I just didn't think that worked that well either. There's this whole stuff with Tom Jones playing a theme song guy who opens and ends the film, and I thought the whole song itself was very forgettable and bottom of the barrel stuff for Disney. It really sounded like something you would see on an episode of The Emperor's New School, not a theatrical film. Um, that's more of an issue though with the songwriters and like the soundtrack than the writing. But I mean, it's kind of because it ties in to the opening and the ending of the movie. It's kind of it acts in some ways as a intro and outro. Um, and there's a few other characters throughout the story, but really, it's Kuzco, it's Pacha, it's Yzma, it's Kronk, maybe a little bit of Chica. Um, and the sense of humor in this script is another thing that I think is a mixed bag. There are some moments where with Yzma and Kronk, like, it's pretty funny. Kronk plays a great example of a dunce kind of character, like a character who's kind of is clueless and oblivious to things, and it's done in a way that is actually quite clever. And I think it did a good job with his turn as a character when he goes from being Yzma's right hand man to realizing the error of his ways, because that just felt like a more natural progression than what happened with Kuzco for me. And I see the writer's attempts to do that, but it just came across as not nearly good enough. Like it was just lacking something extra. Like I said, it felt very half-assed. And then with the other parts of the humor when it comes to the script, like I said, the squirrel stuff does nothing for me, and the attempts to break the fourth wall in particular really fall flat. Like there's this whole stuff where Kuzco will break the fourth wall and talk about how it's my movie. Why are you paying attention to Pacha? Then even like puts a circle around him. You're supposed to care about me. And I'm like, that's just insulting. And I understand what they're trying to do here, but it's honestly insulting the audience. And I get it. It's another extension of Kuzco's selfish nature as a character. But it's not funny, and it just stops the film for Kuzco to just be insufferable. And I'm like, no, I like the Pacha story. I like that character. You suck. Go away. Let this part of the story just play out normally. Why did you have to stop it to just point a finger at yourself and be like, me, 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 me? Like that's not. And usually when you have a fourth wall break, it's something that's funny or it actually has a purpose to serve other than just stopping the film to just further provide another extension of something we already know. We already know he's selfish. We already know he's obnoxious. You don't have to double down on that. And I do feel the script does that too much. It doubles down. Excuse me. If I could even speak, my apologies. It doubles down on the obnoxiousness and the irritating nature of Kuzco as a character. Way too often. So, yeah, it's just one of those scripts, like, there are things about it that I like. I like the idea of the Emperor getting taught a lesson by being turned into a llama. There's some fun there. And I like the whole stuff with Yzma and her underground lab and how you have to go on a roller coaster in order to get down to her lab. I thought that was way out there, but fun, and provides a lot of great moments of animation. And I love the climax where Yzma is a cat, and there's all these other transformations and stuff like that. And there's just so much chaos and craziness in the climax of the movie, but it's set up and structured in a way that's just really uh fun, and still feels like it has a certain measured ness to it, despite just things just being all over the place, and Cusco's turning into multiple different animals, and Yzma is now a kitten, and all of this other stuff. So it's just one of those movies where I think the script needed a little more time, but it didn't have time. So it's one of those things where would have been nice, but what they decided to do, the direction they decided to take things in, they didn't have as much time. So I think a lot of corners were cut, and that really, really does show. And here's the thing, they did this because they were worried about box office returns. First and foremost, they were worried about Kingdom of the Sun, an epic animated movie, underperforming. And this underperformed. It didn't do as well as they would have liked it to have done in the first place. It made 100 million. It cost 100 million. My bad. But it only made 169 million in the worldwide. So it didn't even make as much as Disney wanted it to begin with. So you still didn't make as much. So you might as well just have taken the risk. Just saying. And that script had a lot of work on it. So it's not like that script was something that was rushed and had a lot of corners that were cut. Like with this version of that story. Now, as with any animated film, a lot of the strength of the film is really tied into the voice cast, and I think it's a good voice cast. I mean, David Spade, he's supposed to be obnoxious. He's supposed to be annoying. He's supposed to be someone that you initially despise in the beginning of the movie. And he nails that. He's almost like nails on a chalkboard at times. But what he doesn't nail is when he's supposed to be more kind-hearted, supposed to be a character that you've warmed up to and you really genuinely care about, and you put him on an equal platform as someone like Pacha. That never happens for me. And I think in large part it's due to the script, but another part it's due to David Spade. Like, he's not really the best voice actor in terms of showing different ranges for this character. So there's a lot of limitations that this character has with the script and with the voice actor. John Goodman, though, as Pacha, amazing. He was great. I loved his take on this character. John Goodman did a great job showing the warmth of this character, as well as a lot of this character's other strengths in terms of his resilience and a lot of these other things. And I really thought that was a great performance by John Goodman. Eartha Kitt was also excellent as Yzma. Hilarious, over the top, scenery chewing, but that's everything that that character needed to be and everything that character was. And it was a joy. It was a joy to watch such a vet, such a legendary uh, actress, just have at it and just sink her claws into this villainous persona. Patrick Warburton, uh, he stole the show as Kronk. He really did. He stole the show as Kronk. He was hilarious. His deadpan was just on point. Some of the best deadpan voiceover work you'll ever hear at anything. Like it really was that good. And Wendy Malick was fine too as Chica. I like her personality. I like the charisma that she showed with her voiceover, especially the scenes with her and Pacha, or even some of the stuff with Kuzco. Uh, and those are really the main voice actors and actresses. Like there's a few other people, but those are really the ones to mention the most. It's just David Spade. He's not a bad character actor. He's not a bad voiceover artist, I guess, in a small capacity, but like as the lead and as a character that needs to have all these different layers to their journey and to who they are as a person, is just he just isn't really the best at any of that. And so just definitely didn't work for me. And I know for a lot of people it works, but I just didn't think David Spade was really that great. He was fine when he's supposed to be annoying, but when he's trying to do anything else, I felt that the voiceover work on his part really wasn't up to par. It also features some editing by Pamela Zegan, Huygen, and Sheffland, which, for an animated film, the editing is pretty good, pretty solid. The music by John Debney, it's there. I definitely heard scores by him that are a lot more memorable and better. Speaking of music, like there is a Sting song, but I don't even remember it being used in the film itself. I think it was just used on the soundtrack and the end credits, but I don't even remember it being heavily used in the movie. And even if it was heavily used in the movie, it wasn't that memorable. The Tom Jones stuff, I already mentioned it. I didn't care for it. It was tacky, just like a lot of Tom Jones music is. And Tom Jones doesn't even fit with this kind of movie. Like it was just out of place. And it's a short film. I mean, it's only 78 minutes, so there's that. I mean, it's not like it's overstaying its welcome too much or it's a really long movie in terms of animation. Like it goes by at a decent enough pace, you know. And there's some fun moments and some sequences that'll make you chuckle, make you smirk. But it's not what I would call like the most engaging story when it comes to a Disney animated movie, and it definitely doesn't have the best cast of characters. Like Pacha is good, and I like Pacha, and I like Yzma and Kronk and so on, but the lead kind of sucks, and so that just kind of brings things down for me. But I still enjoyed watching it. It was still fun. It's not something I would watch again anytime soon, but it's still a movie that I did ultimately enjoy watching. It's just one of those films where it just didn't really have the same impression on me as it has on other people and as other Disney animated films have had on me. So I would say it's one of the weaker Disney animated films for me personally, but even one of the weaker Disney animated films is still decent enough.